So, hello everyone to the first of, I hope, many Ask Me Anything sessions for the Decentraland community. My name is Gia Castelo, or Yararacita in some channels, and I am part of the Grant Support Squad team. And while everyone joins, I would like to briefly tell you why and how we got here to give a little context of what is happening today. As you all here might know, we have been talking with most of our DAO grantees to help them overcome their blockers so they can have successful projects. And we believe that having successful grants is what is going to take us to truly have a metaverse owned by its users. And this is exactly why the Decentraland DAO has already invested a little more than $7.5 million in, up to today, 126 grants. But we do want this investment to be a good one. And it is crucial that we provide support to these blockers so the projects come to life and nurture the Decentraland as a whole. So by providing this support, we started noticing that there were a lot of technical questions to solve. So to start solving them, we started connecting technicians from Foundation with our grantees to help them overcome these issues. And this later dealt in an idea between Pablo Lewin, who is our steward in building bridges between Foundation and the grantees, and Pato Roca from Foundation, to open finally this space to provide transparency and support to specific questions. So I'm really excited that this is happening. And with further comments, I'll pass it on to Jimmy, member of the DAO committee, so we can get this session started.
Thank you, Gia. Hey, this is awesome. I'm Yemel from the DAO committee. Just here to thank you all. Thank you to the Grant Support Squad for building these bridges for the community. I believe that, as Gia said, if we want to set the grants for success and get the most of that program, the knowledge transfer between core contributors and different members of the community, it's super key. Thank you so much also to the Verify Partners Registry, another team in the DAO that also help sending these invitations to other contributors of the community. And of course, thank you so much to all the Decentraland Foundation and the technical teams. I know they have a really packed agenda and taking the time to be here and connecting and opening to the community and the questions. I believe it's super valuable. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Pato, for building the bridges and setting up and getting aligned so many people. And finally, I want to thank to Aus, who's also here. And I want to pass the mic to him. He will tell us a little bit more about the Decentraland Foundation, the mission, and yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you everyone that is working and having these technical lemmas. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, let's get down to it. So who is, there we go. Thank you, Mati, for presenting that. Amazing. Cool, let's go. Well, welcome everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Agustin Ferreira. I'm the Executive Director at the Decentraland Foundation. So today, before we go directly to the technical lemma, I would love to give you an overview on what we are doing at the Decentraland Foundation and how we plan to continue and improve our communication channels with the community via, that's going to be my last slides, but let's move on to the next one. So first of all, what's the Decentraland Foundation? Okay, so the Decentraland Foundation is a non-profit independent entity with the purpose of protecting the platform's decentralized vision, number one. Secondly, holding intellectual property assets, everything that we have in terms of the logo and everything that is attached to the Decentraland, brand. And obviously being one of the main active participants in everything that has to do with the decentralized development of the Decentraland protocol, right? So developing in collaboration with the community and for the benefit of the Decentraland ecosystem communities. So that's in a sneak peek what we're doing here at the Decentraland Foundation. And next slide, please. when it comes to the mission, we have this internal mission built in the Decentraland Foundation that we are here to build the Decentraland protocol building blocks so that our community can one day fully own the development. So since the beginning, what we've been doing is how can we define, determine, and build, the minimum viable, building blocks so that we can start to lay down, the fundamentals of the Decentraland protocol and guide and also help and support, our community members so that they can build things on top of, these building blocks. And so that's our main goal. That's what we are doing here. That's, the mission of the Decentraland Foundation per se. So next slide. In terms of the functions of the foundation, and to give everyone, like a general sneak peek on what we are doing today, with this mission in mind about, building the building blocks for the Decentraland protocol, we have right now 8 teams working on this. So the partnerships, the marketing, the product engineering, the content, everything that has to do with support. Then people and finance and legal, that is basically our supporting squads that helps us obviously running, everything that has to do with the Decentraland Foundation. So today, when it comes to the technical AMAs, we're going to be focusing on the teams that are working under the product engineering, function. And obviously, then we're going to be presenting, the teams, and they are going to be speaking. But to give you a general idea about the functions, right, and what's the scope when it comes to the Decentraland Foundation, right? So next slide, please. So this is, for me, the most important slide that I want to show today to everyone here. And, we have this goal internally that we really want to improve the communication between the foundation and the Decentraland community. So one of the first initiatives on this mission is basically having these technical AMAs where we can get together with the community and everyone involved with the grants and show you what's happening behind the curtains when it comes to our technical developments, and obviously leave you the space to ask us questions or any doubt that you may have on those lines. The second initiative, this is going to be formed. It's basically having a quarterly update on the milestones and objectives that we have internally on our foundation roadmap. So the idea is basically having blog posts and having also been part of the DAO town halls so that we can clearly communicate what's going on, what's happening, and what's to expect, obviously with the end goal of finding alignment and being able to collaborate, both the foundation and obviously the community in shared goals. And the last one that is obviously an important one, and is one that we really want to see happening, is how can we involve, the community more on everything that has to do with the definition of the foundation roadmap. So internally, we have our goals, and we really want you, the community, to participate and to signal on the things that we are currently working on, so that you can help us, guiding this roadmap and guiding the future, right? So we haven't defined the how yet, but we are right now taking in consideration different alternatives. But the end goal is how can I, myself as a community member, be part of the decision making when it comes to the roadmap and try to somehow influence, the decision of the foundation in terms of what's going to come next in the roadmap. Okay, so these are, the next steps that we have planned for the next year. And we are going to be hosting, these technical AMAs, as well as the quarterly milestones and objectives update. And obviously, in the long run, we really want to have this roadmap signaling mechanism in place. Having said that, that's a general overview of the Decentraland Foundation. I hope that helped, getting, a better picture of what is happening in the foundation, and what are the different functions, as well as leaving you with this final idea on what are the next steps and what is our internal goal in terms of the communications between the foundation and the community. So having said that, I'm going to pass it over to Mati, probably, who is going to start with the proper technical AMA. And well, Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Matthias. I'm running the presentation, and I'm going to be talking on behalf of the platform team. So first, let's talk a bit or refresh what is platform. So in the context of Decentraland, so why do we exist? The main purpose of the platform team is to enable massive decentralized communications and content management in real time for the Decentraland protocol. So we manage the storage of all the 3D assets, the communications, and how do you see people in the world and connect with each other. Our main product, you may know it, are the Catalyst nodes. The Catalyst nodes, some of them are run by the foundation, and most of them are run by the community. And the responsibilities they have are to store the content, do the blockchain validations, like to validate if you own the land in which you are trying to deploy anything, and to create these peer-to-peer networks between users in the world. And the peer-to-peer networks are responsible for connect the global chat and see user profiles, for example. We have a new product, a small product, is the Decentraland status page. This is kind of out of the scope of our mission, but it's something that we are building in order to bring more transparency to the users when things are not going well, or we have an incident or something like that. So there you can see all the incident history, metrics, and we are adding more features to that. In terms of roadmap, what are we working on? So there is something that we're working on that's called Worlds. It's in alpha state. The idea for Worlds is to be a preview server, an alternative to Heroku, something to do experiments, and we are running this alpha version with some like close content creators that can provide us feedback and dedicate some time to it. Based on the feedback and the results, we are going to see how to release this, but people are seeing a lot of potential in this feature. All these products have public definitions on the ADR repo. We are going to share the slides after this, so you can go and check every technical detail about the implementation of these things. Secondly, in this quarter, we are building also an alternative for content validation against the blockchain. We currently use the graph, but the graph has some reliability problems from time to time. Their service go down. Actually, yesterday we had like several alarms triggered in our channels due to the graph because it wasn't working well. And when the graph is not working well, we fail to validate content. And if we fail to validate content, also things fail in the platform. So we are evaluating an alternative. It's going pretty well. It's an implementation of a service with a set of smart contracts, so it's going to also be decentralized. Then comes the lightweight peer-to-peer. We had a couple of months ago one release of Coms v3, and this caused like a lot of problems, but in the platform where people was not able to see each other or connect with each other, or there were problems on the chat. So we did a huge rollback of that initiative, but we did all the architecture, and we are now building and designing new implementation for the peer-to-peer connections. The architecture is there, and we are using it also for Worlds. We are in the stage of designing this new peer-to-peer mechanism that you can check, and we are doing the POCs to see what are the next steps. But if the idea that we are like thinking, we can deliver that as a product, and the goal is going to have like faster and lightweight connections between users. Then another thing that we are working on is the fast bootstrapping for the Catalyst. The Catalyst have like a lot of content that they need to validate when they bootstrap with all the nodes. And if you need to patch, and we actually saw this when we had this Coms v3 release, we had to roll back and we had to update the nodes, and it took like 35 minutes for each node to start, and that took like a lot of time, and that got like a bad impact for the users, because you are connected to a server, the server goes down, and until you like get it up again and running, it takes too much time. So we are designing a a new way to bootstrap a catalyst that is going to take like much less time. And then the status page. So we did this fast in order to bring this transparency about the status and everything that is happening with the incidents, and have like a way to look for the root cause analysis documents when there is an incident. But we are adding more stuff like the quarterly metrics about the platform. We are doing status checks for all the catalysts and the main services. And the release date for that is going to be in the following weeks. So November 23rd, 23, we are going to be pushing these changes. So some key metrics related to this. These are metrics that we look like quite often, and wanted to share some thoughts about this. So the Catalyst peer capacity is the amount of users that a node can host with the resources that it has in terms of CPU, disk, and memory. Today, depending on the machine, it can go up to 2K. There are some nodes that are super powerful, but the average it's between 1,000 and 1,500. This is yellow because it's super okay with the amount of users that we are currently having on the platform, but we need to scale this. So these metrics are things that we look all the time to see how we can scale the network or scale the nodes. Then we have comms performance. This is the current peer-to-peer latency. It works fine to see avatars and connect with users and see someone walking. But if you are in a scene where there are a lot of people and you have the two computers next to each other, you will see problems, or like something happened in your computer, and after it happens in the other one, it will take seconds. It's perceivable. So more than 50% of the users, when they are in a scene, in a crowded scene, they will experience 2.5 or 3 seconds of latency. So the new comms architecture that is defined on the Lightware peer-to-peer and other initiatives that are on those ADRs will come to fix this latency issue. That will also be a building block to build new experiences like games, because for games you need like 200 milliseconds latency in order to have like a good experience. And lastly, we have also the Catalyst monthly incidents by severity. So in the last 3 months, we only had one severity 1 incident, and that was the one related to the comms v3 release that we had to roll back. So our learning from that was to do like quicker rollbacks when things go south, instead of try to patch in production. And I think that's it. With this, I'm going to leave the mic for Miguel.
Right. Thank you, Mati. So, hey everyone. I'm Miguel. I'm a manager for a new team. You might have never heard of us, which is the dServices team. This new team formed in March 2022 with now 4 developers. Why do we exist? What is our mission? Is to enable content creators and communities, provide an intermediate state of services and apps to interact with the world and provide added value. So our main focus is on the social interactions and the engagement of the communities and the content creators. And we're kind of like a glue between our front end and our core backend of the platform. Next slide, please. So our product right now, we are owning the Friends and Messaging subsystem. This is mainly the backend service, client side, and flows in the front end as well. And this is whatever you see related to friends management in Explorer, to the direct messages, to our new feature, which is the channels, and presence and whereabouts of other players, so that you know if your friend is online, if you can jump right into the realm and position where that person is located in the world. So next slide, please. Some of the things we're working for this quarter, apart from the aforementioned release of the channels, we'll talk about that a bit more in a few seconds, is a new friend request. It's mainly to enable to send a message in a friend request, which makes it easier for people to recognize the intentions of the requesters and respond, as we've seen that most of the friend requests were not even accepted or rejected. We want to improve those metrics and the social interactions in the world. Then we have a new service that we're working on, which is the social service. This will be wrapping our current friends and chat management, and will enable us to apply some business policies to extend the friendship querying capabilities that we have right now, and to even have some privacy and security improvements and performance as well. Last but not least, we are working on the product definition and design for the new Quest server, which we already had a prior attempt. I think it was a year and a half ago, which had great results in terms of engagement of the end users, but we had a lot of issues in the middle related to how we were able to upload the quests for each creator. So we want to provide new tools and really easy to use. Then have a scalable solution, as the previous one were having many issues in that end, and also some really more fine-grained permission system than the last one. Finally, we want to provide more possibilities for the Quest. We're been researching on the new data model for that. So next slide, please. So finally, talking a bit about some metrics and highlights we had for these last quarters. So first of all, we have a service of 99% uptime with less than 1% of error rate. This is a great accomplishment on the team. As before forming the team, we were not having stability with the friends management. I know we do, and we're working towards having even a better error cap. On the client side, we're working on making it more scalable. This quarter, we made a lot of improvements in terms of making things load easier for in the browser and also on desktop, and taking advantage of some of caching improvements we had in the SDK in order to reduce the CPU usage of the service to have, paving the way for new social features as well. And as I mentioned before, we released the first milestone for channels, as you may have seen already in the Explorer and in the last Metaverse Festival, where we had up to 1,000 concurrent users talking in some channel at the same time. Then talking a bit about our lowlights. So we had an incident in the client related to the performance for the huge channels, which in this case we were having around 13K users in the same channel, which made it really hard to process on the client side. Luckily, we could mitigate the issue by just disabling this feature and letting all the other parts of the friends and direct messages subsystem work. And we already were able to do that postmortem and fix the issue that we encountered that day and re-enable the feature as well. Also, we are trying to work on the latency of sending messages that we've seen that it's been scaling for big channels for up to 5 seconds. And those are some of the improvements we may see in the upcoming quarters as well. So I think that's it on my side.
Okay, so now let's jump to the questions. Agustina, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Agus, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can go one by one through the questions that you all posted. just a quick comment before we start. We are also going to provide like a written answer for all the questions that are here. We need to find the channel, but we can think on that later. But we will provide those answers. And also in this session, we are going to answer the questions that are related like to platform and services and the scope of our teams. But we are going to look for the answer for the other teams and send you those written answers because we don't have them. We may not have them now. And I think that's it. We can start.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. I'm Agustina and I'm a tech lead in the platform team. Well, let's go in order, right? The first one is, are you considering donating land for your verified partners to better promote themselves? Well, I think that question maybe is for another team for product. Should we skip the ones that aren't from platform, right?
Yeah, we have them on a document track. This is like not for platform, but perhaps I would like give a short answer for this or a vague answer. I think that if you need land for like a partner or a project, you may request something through the DAO and get the votes, and perhaps there is some way to get that resource through there, like if the community supports the project. But anyways, we will check with the internal team and try to provide an answer for this one. I cannot mark them as resolved. I don't know, like if there is someone that can do it. Yeah, I can. Sorry, no, I didn't like. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Next one.
Next one. Is there a way that community members can help improve the performance of the Catalyst servers, and perhaps by spinning up their own IPFS nodes to host GLB assets? Okay, I think that this question has like two parts. In the first part is if anyone wants to help improve the performance of the Catalyst servers, then you can start up a Catalyst node, run profiling, send pull requests, open discussions, issues at GitHub. Also remember to put like a step-by-step guide to reproduce any issue that you find. In the other way, if you already have any idea on how to improve the performance, we can talk about it. Maybe a forum in GitHub will be the right place. Regarding GLB assets and the conversion, we have another question which is related to that. I think that it's for another team, so I delete that for the next week. Next one. Would it be possible to include the scene ID in comms output or create a webhook that fires with a new scene is deployed? Okay, this question is about the endpoints that we are exposing in comms. I think that the ones that tells how many users are in a certain parcel, and that information includes the parcel and the coordinates, but doesn't include the scene that is currently deployed on that catalyst. The thing here is that in each catalyst we have 3 services, right? The content, lambdas, and comms. The content is the one responsible for storing the scenes, and the comms is the one responsible of handling the communication between peers and the users that are connected to that realm. So it's not for comms responsibility to know which is the current scene ID. So if you need to hook to that information, then you will need to do that separate, like requesting the content server. And you can leverage that using the snapshots fetcher repository, and we have a few examples of that. For example, in a repository which is named deployments to SQS, so you can hear all the new changes that all the DAO of content servers are having, and you can listen there if there was any change in the land that you are showing. Next question.
Yeah, just a quick comment. If someone wants to like talk about one of the answers, let's just jump in. Let's make this a conversation.
Yeah, just a question about, I asked that last question about the scene CID. So that's great. Thank you so much for your answer. This is something that I'm dealing with for a long time. I'm putting a lot of pressure, I think, calling the the nodes to always try to figure out the scene CID of the parcels that I'm getting information about. But yeah, so basically what you just said, the answer will be written down in a document after this, and I can follow up on it. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it
That's
will
great.
have the
Thank you so
links
much.
to the examples.
Okay. Thus, when decentralized users come to a certain area, they can enter the stores of verified partners and experience what kind of service they can get. Well, I think that I cannot answer this question either. So let's move to the following. Do you have any plans either now or in the future to expand the current island real player limitation from 100 to 1,000 or more? Well, in first place, the current focus is on making the communications among 100 users more efficient, improving the latency and the throughput. In that line is what Mati told before, that we are working on comms v3, which includes adding new transports such as LikeIt and WebSocket room service. And also we are working on improving the performance of the peer-to-peer connections and running different approaches of that solution and comparing them. So the first we want to focus on making the islands of 100 people to work better, and then we can think of increasing the size. Anyway, there is a visual limitation out rendering avatars in the UI, right? For example, if you have like 1,000 users in a few parcels, that could overload the visualization and make it impossible to have a good in-world experience. So I don't know how maybe the render or the Explorer team may handle that. And that's all. Next one. Can we get regular backend updates post somewhere so we know what's being updated when at the exact time it's pushed through? Okay, I'm not sure what was the need for this person. So if you are here, maybe you can tell me if this works for you or do you have any other use case. So what we currently have is that we have the releases for the catalysts are documented in GitHub repository. So you can read all the changelogs there and you can hook with GitHub to listen every new catalyst release. Also, every time a new version of the catalyst is released and deployed, we announce it in the Catalyst Discord channel. Anyway, it's important to mention that the rollout depends on each catalyst owner. So each of them has a responsibility of updating their own catalyst. I don't know if this works for you, or maybe if you need something more automatically done, I don't know. I don't know if Bubbles is here either, but okay.
Let's move to the next one then.
Okay. There was a recent proposal on uploading PFP images to DCL names. Are there any plans or updates for this feature or to implement it on DCL's marketplace? I let Dub's team to answer this question. So the next one.
I can. Okay, sorry.
Okay, right now.
I can take it. Hello, everyone. Well, we don't have any plans, to be honest, but I really like that idea. I think that we will analyze later. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nacho, for jumping in.
Next one. Is there any plans to add in-world name swap feature similar to how users can change their wearables plus emotes in their backpack? Okay, I'm not capable of responding this either. So the next one. Currently, 3D models are optimized by Catalyst servers. Why is done there and not by the CLI as an important stage that could give more control to creators? I don't know, Mati, if you want to say something about this or...
Yeah, I think this targets the asset bundles. Perhaps this would be more like better play for SDK. The thing is probably how the asset bundles are generated. They could be generated on the CLI, but currently they are done by a service. And as far as I know, this is done in a service because they need like a Unity API key, and So in order for that API key to be used only by the service that is paying for it, it's done there, like and uploaded to any S3 bucket and then consumed by the Explorer. That's why it cannot be in the CLI. And that's it, I think.
Okay. Next one is by Sontran. By running my own catalyst, I likely have a private full-featured DCL, haven't I? Only person who knows the URL can join the private DCL. If you're running your private catalyst with the default configuration, which includes, as mentioned before, the content server, Lambda server, and comms, then it's accessible to anyone who has the link to it, and it's a full functional node. Anyway, remember that any change that you do there won't be replicated to prod environment as it's not part of the DAO catalyst. And also remember, if you want to run a fork of Decentraland, you can read the blog post about running your own catalyst. And we added a functionality to ignore the blockchain validation. So if you want to run your private or your own catalyst, maybe you don't want the changes from production, you want only your deployments. So you can, but you don't have the permissions to do the right deployments, as you will need the permissions of the land. So you can ignore those blockchain validations, and this is useful for testing, I think. The next one is by Abriel. Are there any plans to allow a federation of the Decentralands in a similar way Mastodon or Fediverse works, where anyone can spawn its own instance? Well, I think that this question is a bit related to the previous one. In the current infrastructure, the DAO Catalyst network is distributed. This means that each server stores all the data, validates everything, and broadcasts all the changes to every other node. If anyone wants to run their own server that listens to the changes from the DAO servers, they can. In the same line, if anyone wants to run their own instance or a fork of them, they can too. I don't know if this answers the question of this person has another idea, so we can think of. That'd be great. If no one has anything to say, I'll continue. How can we view the files, especially the GLB files uploaded to the content server? Well, in the reader response, it will be better explained, but the answer here is that we have, you will need to use the content server API, where you for example, if you need to download the GLB files for a certain scene, you will request the entity for that LAN, and then in the entity, you will have reference all the files, and you can download them from any catalyst. Next one. With regards to the scene creation, sometimes when completing the scene in the builder, it loses certain parts of the build. Will it be optimized in the future? I left this question to another week because I think that's related to. The next one. What are DCL's plans in regards to renting land? Are there, as there are available solutions, will DCL continue to build their own or think about a potential partnership? Yes, I'm passing this question too. How much this space is currently required to run a catalyst locally? Do you have any plans to reduce that number in the future? Well, if you want to run a catalyst, that catalyst will be synced with the production DAO catalyst, you have like two options: to set up a light node, which is when you enable garbage collection, and a full node. The light node only stores the entities that are active, and the full node stores all the history of all the deployments. Currently, the size that you may need is for a light node 700 gigabytes, and for a full node it's 1.35 terabytes. This is a huge number, and we've been thinking in different plans and ideas to improve this, mostly for when you need to bootstrap a new node. Anyway, this information needs to be stored somewhere. So if you need to run a catalyst and maybe you don't want to store, like, for example, all the profiles, you can set it up and configure to ignore the profile deployment, so it may decrease the size of the disk. This is important to mention that the DAO catalysts need to store. Currently, they need to store all these 700 gigabytes. So, as I mentioned before, if you have any other idea, it would be great to discuss it in GitHub for you. Next one. Oh, there's a new one. Well, it's about popes, but I am not going to answer that either.
I can take it that one, to popes.
Okay.
Pope has stopped to allow virtual events, so it's been hard to start minting or creating new popes. We need to add or request authorization from the pop team, and we are evaluating other alternatives so we can still provide the same service.
Okay, well, the next one is, which are the main GitHub repositories related to Catalyst and the decentralized services? Well, I can share you the links, but at platform we have like many repositories. So I included, the first one is the one for the architecture that mentions all the services that we have. Then it's the Catalyst repository and the Catalyst owner, which is the Docker Compose to set up a node. And the others are the ones for these services, which includes the chat and quest. Could you explain the deploying Heroku?
Deploying Heroku, like, I don't know if the question is how to use it or how does it work, but anyways, I think it's going to be better for ZK.
Okay. Can we see include a simple way in SDK for landowners to give wearables for free to users without the risk of bots sweeping all wearables in an instant? Yes, this is for SDK too. Where are Catalyst servers located? Well, that's a great question. Currently, there's no requirement for any Catalyst owner to set them up in any place, but I think that we have like 11 Catalyst nodes. The majority of them is in USA, and we have like one in Australia maybe, and 2 in Europe, but I'm not really sure. You can get all the host names of the DAO Catalyst and check them by yourself, I think, with the IPs, sorry.
We have the list of the locations. They are like spread around the world. We can add it to the answers later on, but yes, that's correct.
Okay, I think that the next one is another for the SDK. Is it possible to make an object fly across many parcels on a certain altitude? The following from Camilo is there an API where we can get the infos about all the users who participate in an event? We know about the events API, but we can only see the last 10. I'm not sure I get this question.
Let me elaborate a little bit on that. Nice to see you guys. So we're working essentially on a module that allows people to get rewards for doing different activities on Decentraland in general in the metaverse. So voting for a proposal, and for that we're using an indexer through the graph, and then buying wearables, deploying scenes. And one of the things that we want to reward people for is if they participate at an event. So let's say you enter an event, say, hey, jump in, whichever event it is, and then we can, so to say, register that person went there, and then we can reward them with a badge, with points, and so on. That's the background. Thank you.
Okay. Currently, we are exposing information about which user is on each parcel, and I know that there are many services built on top of that. But we could think of this as a use case to work on. Currently, you will need to get the information about all the realms and all the parcels involved in your scene, and check if those wallets are the ones that you have in the event or something like that. Like really manual thing.
Okay, yeah, because the event listener, from what I know, I mean, I'm not the one that is developing it, but my team told me that they can only retrieve 10 people, and like the last 10 people that went to the event, so to say. So that's I don't know if there's maybe a restriction that is set, or
Yeah, I think that perhaps one of the good ways to do this is through comms API, and like you need to probably filter the information from the events parcel during the event time. So it's going to be kind of tricky. There could be a better way to do this.
okay. Oh yeah, so it's a tricky one.
Maybe we can create a GitHub issue and discuss this there, because it has like a lot of things to think about.
Cool. No, thank you. So we'll try it out and keep you updated.
Yes.
Thank you.
What is the biggest technically limiting factor in improving performance of TCL? Is it the specs of the Catalyst nodes or more of a program architecture issue?
The thing is, which performance? Like the in-game user experience, perhaps this is too wide.
Asset load time. Like, yeah, I'm just curious. Does it have to do with, you know, which realm I'm connected to and how powerful that catalyst node is, or does it have to do with more, you know, programmatically, you know, how we're handling the loading of those assets? And there's obviously like limits involved on both sides of those things.
So this is Mendes from the SDK team, and we may talk about this one today because of performance. Mainly, all the catalysts are cached using Cloudflare. We do that to provide a better experience overall, caching all the assets near the people. But in some cases, if you hard code some parameters, you can download the assets directly from the catalysts, which is not the case for most of the users. The main limitation in performance behind the loading is that many different assets may be loading at the same time, and the browser imposes some limitations in the amount of parallel things that it can do. Remember that the browsers only have one thread, and it needs to handle both the loading, the communications, the rendering, and all the scenes at the same time. So it works definitely way better in desktop because those limitations doesn't exist, but it's still very affected by the amount of things that are loading. So one good example of this is that if your scene is a huge plaza and it only takes a couple models to download, it's way better in terms of performance than loading one small scene that has 15 different models, because the throughput of the loading is better when there are fewer things to do. I don't know if that covers it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I guess, can you just elaborate a little bit more on like if we want to improve that, how do we do that? Like, what is it a client side thing, like you're saying? Like obviously the desktop will perform better because of the multi-threading, which is something we don't have access to in the browser. And if that is the case, like, are there things that we can do to, you know, mitigate the loading time? Could we?
From a content creator perspective, or from a content creator perspective, or from Decentraland implementers perspective?
From a platform perspective, because
from a platform, we are doing the best we can do. But in that line, I think that the best shot right now is to try to produce better tools to educate content creators to produce more optimized content, and that will overall improve all the loading times. A good example of this is the Genesis Plaza. The Genesis Plaza is just a couple models, and loads way faster than some scenes that are only one parcel. And the Genesis Plaza has almost 4,000 parcels. So it is more like an art pipeline optimization, what we are looking for, than a platform optimization. In the platform terms, we are at the roof of what the performance allows it. Platform, catalyst, and decentralized service, right? And the renderer, which ends up reading all of that information as fast as it can.
Sure. One last question. Right now, our scene load radius is at about it's at 4. Is increasing that? I know generally you want to bring it down to improve your performance, but in the case of things like larger experiences, would increasing that perhaps have a performance improvement by allowing you to store more of the parcel in your memory instead of constantly reloading as you're potentially running around something like a 20 parcel estate? Or is it doing that already and we just visually don't see that?
No. The scene loading radius is to load the scenes that are of course around you, but again with the example of the roads or the Genesis Plaza, it loads scenes that are 20 by 20 parcels. So in general terms, one bigger experience behaves way better than 10 smaller experiences that occupy the same space. I don't know if that covers the answer. Otherwise, we can
go
back to
good.
the written more detail.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, let's jump to the next one. Aus, do you want to continue?
Okay. Are there any plans to create a solution that allows to deploy scenes and share with others without owning a lab? Heroku want to be free from November 28th.
Okay, I can take this one. So yeah, we are working on this initiative that we call Worlds. The idea came from that to replace Heroku. I'm going to share the ADR. It's going to also be linked to Decentraland names. Okay, they will send it on the chat. And you can read more about it, but this is going to be a very straightforward and easy way to upload a content to a preview server. Thank you, Aus. So the last one.
Any plans to make bug reporting easier? Two major problems I see. A, users don't know how to debug. B, GitHub isn't a friendly platform to communicate follow-up. I must agree on this one, but really I don't have an answer right now. Maybe if you have any suggestion, that'd be great.
Hi, folks. This is Pato Roca. I can take over this one. We are working currently with the player support team at the Decentraland Foundation in order to implement stronger, more reliable mechanisms to report issues. The main choice so far is to embrace a tool that we already have in the builder and the marketplace. We are still in early stage, but we will be sharing the documentation soon. It's going to open a pop-up for every player and user to report issues, and we're going to be requesting some specific information. Of course, it's not the best, but it's the better balance we can find so far. And then we're going to be moving those issues reported to GitHub, and we're going to be following the proper process of status updates and so on.
Okay, next one. How can I, as an educator, assist the developers in communicating those better tools for pipeline optimizations? I don't think I have a straight answer for this, but building content, documentations, examples, doing videos, and being very active on the community channels that we have, and sharing the knowledge and experience. I don't know if the person who did the question is here and wants to elaborate more, but that would be
I'm
like
here.
my short answer.
Yeah, this is Scott Moore, Odd Job. So I asked the question. I'm an educator, so I've prepared unit plans and lesson plans. I've also, slide decks and how-to videos. I teach or taught technology to pre-K through 8th grade students, teaching them how to install and maintain a crypto wallet, how to create NFTs, how to build 3D scenes. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm offering my abilities as an educator. I am just now beginning to learn the SDK, so there's I guess my own limitation as far as what I understand about Catalyst servers, what I understand about content IDs and IPFS and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd love to create some documentation, some videos that can communicate better. I mean, my whole very being is all about helping to increase understanding. So if there's anybody out there that is looking for somebody to create that, to help communicate better, I just offer myself up for that purpose.
Okay. Sorry, Matty, for jumping in. Scott, this is freaking amazing, to be honest. There is one of the main objectives of these meetings that we are hosting is also to start building bridges for the rest of the community members to start connecting with each other, right? Even though this was the first AMA, and it was kind of like a single channel communication where the attendees receive a bunch of information, we would love to see on the upcoming Ask Me Anything sessions for each of you to step up, start answering the questions others may have, start sharing knowledge. And also here, getting closer to the DAO, we have the proposals. I'm not sure if you, Gia, wants to double down on the message, but I would love to see proposals coming from the community in which we are building tools, documentation for the rest of the community to become way much more technical and extend the Decentraland reality.
So just get started. Just do it.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right.
More than happy to contribute and help there.
I just created my own realm using worlds with the help of Matamus. Did that yesterday. Trying to redeploy it today. So yeah, I'll start there. I've got a GitHub account. I've had one for a number of years. So yeah, I'll go in and just start making documentation around that and anything else. If there's anybody that has a need, like, hey, create a video about this or documentation about this, definitely provide suggestions or guidance or whatever. I would appreciate that. So hit me up. I'm on Discord and I'm on Twitter, DMs, Odd Job. I'm Odd Job everywhere. Thanks.
Awesome. That's awesome. And please join the Catalyst Discord channel if you are not there. And I think that's it, unless anyone has another questions or word to speak about something. We have 1 minute.
No, I think that will be it, and it's perfect timing. So thank you everyone for showing up. Spread the word that these AMAs are happening. Bring your folks that are also developing with you. And yes, all right, see you next week then. Thank you so much, everyone.
So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.